Hey everybody, welcome back to you young engineers of today. I hope you had a good couple of days, and I hope you're ready to continue with more stuff about your online portfolio. So I know I said on Monday that we'd probably spend some more time going into like the Google Sites stuff, but looking back over it, we actually covered mostly everything as far as the basics are concerned, the stuff that you really need to know with Google Sites. A lot of the other stuff will just sort of come from poking around and adding things, getting the ability to add YouTube videos and pictures and things like that. So, we might revisit it. You figured out how to put scratch games on your website? Awesome. So there you go, see? Poking around and just messing around with stuff. So we might revisit it in the future in case it seems necessary or helpful. But for now, I figured we could move on to another subject, and that is getting started with HTML. Because if you're interested in web development, creating websites for people, HTML is going to be a necessity. So CSS and so is JavaScript. But HTML is the foundation for all of those things. And you'll see what I mean as we get, a little bit further along in this lesson, and probably the lesson next Monday, I imagine we'll be doing a little bit more with that. We'll see. We'll see. Everything's sort of up in the air right now. Anyway, so yeah, this is lesson 1, an intro to HTML, which is basically has nothing to do with Google Sites. What we're going to go over is what HTML is and how does it work, preparing your editor and your web host, and your first incredibly super duper basic web page. That's what we're going to go over today. So show of hands, how many of you have experience with HTML? I know I've asked this already, but I just want to sort of get a feel for that again. Okay, so for you guys, this is definitely going to be review. It may not be the most exciting thing, but that's okay. We will, go over the stuff. It'll get ingrained in your head a little bit more. Maybe you'll understand better sort of the how and the why behind some of the stuff you do with HTML. And maybe that will help. I remember doing it in the webinar last year, but kind of forgot it. So some of this will be like new to you then. Perfect. Yeah, I know some of you have been in Young Engineers last year, so you've already seen this before. And you're just kind of like, I want to do something new. And don't worry, you'll get to do some new stuff. But we're going to start out with this stuff, just for everybody's sake. Anyway. HTML basics. So what is HTML? You always hear this. People talk about it. It's a hot topic of conversation. Not really, but you might have heard HTML and you go like, well, what exactly is it? Well, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language because we had to have a fancy sounding name for it. It first appeared on the internet in 1991. It was invented by one dude. Basically just wanted a better way to, he wanted a standardized way to display internet content across different computers. So Hypertext Markup Language was basically his baby. I don't remember his name right now, I apologize. Anyway, it first appeared on the internet in 1991. So HTML just celebrated its 25th birthday. 25th, 15th, 25th birthday. It became a global standard for websites in 2000. Yeah, happy birthday, HTML. Which means that every single website today uses HTML in some form or another for something. Somewhere on it, it's going to have HTML. Usually there is a decent amount of HTML. Sometimes it's just sort of the vehicle for everything else that appears on the website. But even those super fancy websites that you visit where, you can click on stuff and it has like 3D graphics and, it'll send things to your computer and blah, blah, blah. It has HTML at its base. So at the very least, it's a vehicle for some of the other fancier stuff that you see. You'll see what I mean by that later. It has gone through several versions. HTML5 is the newest version. So that is to say that they have revised the language several times in order to include new things and to be able to handle more stuff and to keep up with, the demand of modern computers and the ability of modern computers and things like that. So HTML5 is, on the most basic level, pretty similar to the first HTML, but by and large, it's a very different beast. The syntax is similar, but the features are not. But yes, so HTML. You learn HTML, you got a foot in the door as far as creating websites are concerned. So this is an important distinction to make. So HTML5 is the newest version. However, it is still not officially accepted as the international standard for websites. HTML4 still has that, but that should change sometime this year. This was actually created last year, so this might have changed by now. At any rate, notice that there is the W3C, the World Wide Web Commission. There is actually a group of people out there whose job it is to determine what the international standard is for websites. They all get together and they go, okay, you guys, are we going to do HTML5 this year? And they might go, yes, no, or whatever, and they vote on it. And then they'll discuss like the newest changes in the internet and things that you can do and the newest stuff and features in the language and things like that. So there's actually a group of people out there that determine the international standard for websites. And it holds, it sticks. Like, that's kind of amazing that you can take something as nebulous and as uncontrollable as the internet and actually enforce an international standard for it. That's sort of I think that's sort of incredible. Anyway, I get amused by or I get amazed by small things. So how does it work? You see you've got this lovely infographic here. There's the HTML document, and then you've got the servers, and then there's the browser, and then there's you looking really excited at this website. Like, yeah, congregate loaded. All right. So let's take a look at each of these. HTML doc, pretty straightforward. That's the document that you write. That is the thing that you do all the coding for, and you're like, okay, this is what I want my website to look like, and blah, 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 and you do it all in the code. And it looks a lot like that. See, with the angled brackets and the exclamation marks and all the stuff, and doc type HTML and HTML uncreated and all this. That's what the Google Chrome logo used to look like? Yes. A lot of, yeah, before Google started to go towards that flat sort of matte design that they have for all of their icons now. That is what the Google Chrome logo used to look like back in the day. As you can see, it's been a while since I've updated this. Anyway, the HTML doc is the pretty straightforward part. It's the part where you write the code to do the thing that makes the web page look like the thing that you want it to look like. I adopted a weird accent there for a second. What about web page? What about this HTTP thing? Well, those are the servers. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Again, giving things fancy names. So we've got the hypertext markup language and the hypertext transfer protocol. Essentially, the internet was thought of like hypertext. And you might know links by their older name, hyperlinks. We're really obsessed with the word hyper when the internet first came out. But anyway, the hypertext transfer protocol is basically the way like your computer and a website talk to one another, a server talks to one another. So aka how your computer and YouTube talk. It's the basis for what's called the client-server interaction. You are the client, and the server that you're visiting is the server. So, a lot of times when you play a game online too, you're using basically something called the client, and the people who run the game on their end, they'll have a server. It's the same setup. It's the client-server interaction. I keep repeating myself, I know, but basically. A server will store your HTML document as the raw HTML file. It will do no conversion whatsoever. It will just hold all of the raw data. So it'll, like, if you created this nice fancy website that has all these pictures and video on it and stuff like that, an HTTP server will hold the raw HTML file as well as all those videos and pictures just sort of together in the same location. But it doesn't look like a website on their ends. That's actually the browser's job. So the browser will download that raw HTML file from the server, and it will download all of the content from the server as well. And then it will translate it at that moment to the web page. It will translate it to the thing that you see. So it takes that text document and it takes all of the content and it goes, okay, this is what it should look like, and then it builds it right there. So that there's a bunch of different ways to go about that. So that's the reason why you'll have browsers that'll work faster than others. That's why you'll have browsers that'll display things differently than other browsers. That's why you'll have browsers that won't open certain web pages sometimes. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm just going to kind of circle it with my cursor over here. That's why you have, differences between websites, like when you open them up in different browsers. And that will be a thing that you'll need to get used to if you start writing websites, is you need to get used to opening it up in different browsers to see if it plays nicely with it. Because if it doesn't, then you're cutting out a significant portion of people who could view it. Like if it works in Chrome but it doesn't work in Firefox, suddenly everybody who uses Firefox cannot visit your website. If it doesn't work in Safari, everybody using Safari cannot visit your website, which is a big problem for a lot of people who use Macs, because a lot of people who use Macs use Safari because it's the default that comes with it. Oh, the internet wars have already started. If it doesn't work on Internet Explorer, I mean, no real big loss. But there are going to be people out there who are not going to be able to see your website. Yes, Chrome Master Race. Although it's actually been the case for a while now that Firefox is less memory intensive than Chrome is, and it used to be the other way around, but that's not so much the case anymore, unfortunately. So things are sort of flipping back around. I still use Chrome. I like Chrome, and that just comes from how the UI is structured, and Firefox has restructured the UI to resemble Chrome a lot more, and really I should like it more, but honestly I get stuck in my ways. Now, obviously we don't have to explain the you part, because that's, at least to a certain extent. At that point, you're just enjoying the website. But yeah, so that's basically the process. So you create a raw HTML document, which gets stored in its raw form on the servers, and the browsers download that raw document and translate it in real time so that you can look at it. And so the point I'm trying to make there is the actual representation of the document as a website doesn't happen until very late in the process, and it happens instantaneously. Well, I say instantaneously. Sometimes it feels like a site takes forever to load. But anyway, there are a few different ways you can create a website, a few different editors you can use and things like that. Professional web developers usually use pretty costly and powerful editors when they're creating their websites. A lot of times because it gives you sort of like a what you see is what you get kind of thing, like we had with Google Sites, and it provides a lot of power without, necessarily having to have a lot of HTML knowledge. However, if you have a lot of HTML knowledge, you have even more power. This is actually a very old picture of Adobe Dreamweaver. This is CS3, and I believe they're like CS5 or CS6 now, I want to say. Anyway, they provide a lot of, this looks like Windows 7. It could be Windows 98. It's been a while. But yeah, anyway, these provide a lot of power. Or XP. This looks like it could be XP. Anyway, it's super old. The nice thing, however, about creating pages, web pages with HTML, the really nice thing about it is you can easily use the free text editors that come with your computer. In my case, I'm going to be using Notepad, because I have a Windows machine, as you probably already gleaned from the fact that you're looking at my screen. However, there is TextEdit for the Macintosh operating system. So if you have that, you can use that. Either way, where is Notepad? I believe it's stored in just your regular program files, or it might be in the Windows folder. I don't remember. You can do a search for it though. Ask Cortana. Yeah, see, there you go. I can't because I have Windows 8.1. But if you have Windows 10, then you can certainly do that. At any rate, the nice thing about free text editors is they edit text. They edit text files in something called plain text, which is exactly what we want. Fancier editors like Word or OpenOffice or LibreOffice, or I should say Office or all of its free variants, a lot of times they use something called rich text. And rich text will not work for what we're trying to do. We want to use plain text. Well, why, you might be asking? Well, rich text is different from plain text in the sense that plain text, you can't really do much with it. You can write text, and you can delete text, and you can save the file. You're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like. You can watch the video later to sort of figure out what we were talking about before. But a lot of it was sort of explanatory and introductory stuff. And you've been in this before. It's the HTML stuff. At least I believe you have, because I know you've been in Young Engineers before. Yeah, for sure. We're just opening up like Notepad or TextEdit. Anyway, rich text editors allow you to do things like italics and bold and different font colors and, you know, super different sizes and formatting and all kinds of crazy stuff. And the reason we don't want that is because essentially rich text editors create a file that's kind of like an HTML file. It doesn't use HTML, but it's kind of like an HTML file in the sense that it's actually a whole bunch of code and then the body of your text. And that whole bunch of code, what that basically does is that tells the computer what all the formatting is for it, how everything's going to look, you know, all that basic introductory stuff, and then inline it'll have formatting for individual things and different sizes and stuff like that, so that when something like Word opens up a rich text file, it can open up that file and have it look like exactly the same as when you left it, with all of its fancy formatting and everything like that. Yeah, Notepad definitely has plain text. It defaults to plain text. So yeah, we want plain text just because if you were to look at a plain text file, it's literally just the text that you typed. None of that fancy formatting code or anything like that, just the text that you typed. If we had all that fancy formatting code, a browser wouldn't be able to parse that stuff, and it would freak out, and everything would be just unfortunate. So if we have plain text, it can understand it and create your nice, lovely web page. This is the correct format to create a web page on a Mac. Convert to plain text, click on the Format menu, select to make plain text. We know this. Yeah, so simply put, since HTML is at its base entirely plain text and not translated until the very last moment, you already have a compiler, in quotes, for HTML built into your computer. So everybody's downloaded one of those. They're free. They're your browser. So you already have a compiler for HTML. You just need something to create the actual raw file, and that's what we can use a plain text editor for. So with all that, it's finally time to learn some HTML. So we'll start out with the super basics. got changed a little bit. Okay, well, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to make my font all bigger so that you guys can read it as I type it. So we're going to type some stuff into our plain text editor. And if you don't understand why I'm typing this stuff, that's okay, because I'm actually going to spend some time going over that. Why you type this stuff. So this will be the basis for our very first web page. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Not too bad. Like there was a fair amount of typing, but it wasn't too bad. I guess just raise your hands once you finish typing all this. Okay, we got like 2 hands so far. Excellent. If you finish it a little bit early, take some time to double check and make sure that this looks exactly like what you have typed out. Just to be absolutely 100% positively certain. And we'll move on to the next thing once we got mostly everybody has this typed out. Once we have everybody type this out. Yeah, you can do yo instead if you'd like. All right. Give you guys like 3 or 4 more minutes. Just remember to raise your hand once you have finished typing it. In the meantime, I'll play solitaire. Okay then, you do that. 4 minutes is a lot of time to type that. Hey, sometimes you want to be sure that everybody's on the same page. I think I partially understand it. Excellent. Well, it'll probably become a lot clearer in the coming minutes. A couple more minutes. Oh God, the music. Where is it from? Oh, you have music playing right now? Because I certainly don't have music playing right now. Yeah, exactly my question. What music? Oh, it was a website. Okay. I hate it when that happens. You get some random website that just starts blaring sound at you, and you're like, no, I didn't want that. I wanted to be, stop it. Which is why I'm extremely thankful that Chrome added that feature where it has the little speaker next to the website name in the tab corresponding to which website is currently blaring sound at you. Just chilling next to your computer. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've pretty much gotten this all typed out, I'll show you what to do next. We're going to do, and you guys, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. We're going to go File and Save As. Yeah, we're saving this. We're saving this to, I'm saving it to my desktop. You guys save it to somewhere where you can easily find it. That's the more important thing, is you guys being able to easily find it. For me, that is more or less the desktop. For you guys, that may be somewhere else. Save it somewhere you can find it. And it defaults to .txt for the file name. We don't want that. What I'm going to call this, I'm going to call this index.html. So as you can see in my file name right here, index.html, no txt, and be sure to change the save as type to all files. So index.html, save as type, all files. You should be able to just save as and then change it to index.html. I believe so. It's very similar to a Unix system, so it runs off of the same principle. However, it's probably not going to be under File. Maybe, well, yeah, no, it's probably going to be under File. It's been a while since I've used a Mac. I was thinking it was either that or the Program menu, but I believe it's under File. So once you've done that, at the very top, not like at the top of the window, but at the top of the screen, yeah, there you go. So once you've done that, go ahead and click Save, and unexpectedly, it gets saved to the location where you told it to save. So let's go ahead and locate it. This is as strong an endorsement for keeping your desktop clean as any, because I am having a hard time locating it. Here we go. So finally we put it on a Google document. No, I wouldn't do that, because a Google document is not going to save it as a plain text file. Generally. I believe there is a way to do it, but generally no. Everybody should have an inbuilt plain text editor, like Notepad and the WordPad that I'm talking about for Windows and Mac. Those come with the operating system, so it's not like you have to download anything special. Linux should have one. Well, Linux is highly customizable, but if you get something like Ubuntu or something like that, it should come with a plain text editor as well. I mean, I know you're being facetious, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I didn't do that. That's okay. We can fix that. At any rate, as you can see, you might need to, you might find it a little bit harder to find because it's not actually going to have like the plain text icon. It's going to have an icon probably corresponding to the browser that you have as a default. So mine is a little Chrome icon here, which is part of the reason why I had a hard time locating it, but here it is right here, index.html, and it's got the little Chrome icon. If your default browser is Firefox, it might be a little Firefox icon. If it's Internet Explorer Edge, it'll probably be one of those icons. If it's Safari, it might be one of those icons, or it might be like a little globe icon or something like that. I don't really remember. At any rate, once you find it, go ahead and double click on it, and it'll open it up in Chrome. Boom, there it is. Look at our website. Wow, that's nuts. Here, it even says hi, and if we look at this, it says Young Engineers of Today. It says Young Engineers of Today up here. Like, that's amazing. Amazing. So amazing. So let's spend some time taking a look at what exactly we did. I mean, you guys can probably guess based on what exactly showed up on the web page versus what we typed, but let's spend a little bit of time actually kind of taking it apart, picking it apart a little bit. Didn't work for you. Well, yeah, the only thing I can say in that case is double check your HTML. The only annoying thing about HTML is it doesn't pop up with like a compiler error if you try and open it up in a website. It's just going to try and interpret it as the best it can because it's technically not compiling it, it's just interpreting it. HTML is sort of like a scripting language and kind of like a programming language. It's weird. But it'll try and interpret it as best it can, which sometimes means you just get a bunch of text dumped out onto your browser window, and it's like part of the HTML file, and you're like, what happened? So take a look at what I've got up here, and take a look at what you've got typed out on your HTML file, and see if maybe there's something different going on. But yeah, in the meantime, let's go ahead and spend some time dissecting this HTML file. That's a really old background picture. Anyway. So here's the deal. HTML has an interesting structure to it. It's structured with these little discrete things, and they're called tags, right? Tags are denoted generally by their angled brackets, pretty much always in HTML. So all of these things are tags here that have the angled brackets around them. Now, you might have also noticed that tags tend to come in pairs. Tags generally, well, I'll tell you in a moment, but that's an excellent question. Tags generally don't appear alone. They generally appear in pairs. You're going to have an opening tag and a closing tag. And that basically says that everything inside of those tags is a part of this thing. So we've got an opening HTML tag and a closing HTML tag. And that means that everything between these two tags is our HTML file. You've got an opening head tag and a closing head tag. And everything in between those two head tags is part of the header. Got an opening title tag and a closing title tag, and everything in between the title tags is the title. Opening body tag, closing body tag. Everything in between is the body. Now, the slash means that it is a closing tag. That's just all that it means. So when you create the closing tag, you're going to use the /, because that's going to denote to your browser that that is a closing tag. That's simply all that means. So HTML in this case, these two mean that it is an HTML document. Now, some of these are unpaired tags. Well, one of them is an unpaired tag. It's a doc type HTML up here. And simply that's just a requirement for HTML5. It's recommended for HTML4 and up, but it is a requirement for HTML5. It just is simply a little preceding line that lets the compiler know, or excuse me, the browser know that it is an HTML document. How do I make my HTML open up to Young Engineer's website? You mean how do you put like a link in your web page to the Young Engineer's website? It just opens up the page in text edit. Oh yeah, we'll go over making links. Should I call you Luke, or is there a way you prefer? Try Luke, is that better, or am I pronouncing that correctly? No. Okay. Can you maybe type it out phonetically so I don't mess it up? Tree luck? Okay, I was way off. All right, tree luck. Sorry about that. It's kind of hard when you only see it written down and you never hear it pronounced. I imagine, though, you probably have explained that a few times in your life. Yeah, it's all right. I live on a street name. This is not the same thing at all, but it's sort of similar. I live on a street name that I've had to explain to everybody how to pronounce it and spell it, and it's annoying when I call the power company and the internet and stuff like that, and I'm like, I live on this road, and they go, you what? How? What is that? How do I spell that? And you have to spell it, and they go, that's weird. But anyway, not the same thing as, yeah, anyway. You want to make sure that you saved it as an HTML file. If it's opening up in the text editor, that means that it still has a .txt extension on the end. So it may be called index.html.txt. So you want to make sure that when you save it, see this save as type here in the Windows, you want to make sure that it's set to all files. Otherwise, it will append a .txt invisibly to the end of it, and it will still be treated as a text file. And then manually type in index.html under the file name to ensure that it's saved as an HTML file. We'll check out that image later on. But nice. Is that a screenshot? Nice. All right, yeah, we can check that out in a minute. All right, but yeah, make sure you've done that. That's all. That's probably the best way you can address that. Otherwise, you can try right-clicking on it and open as, and then select like a browser and see if that doesn't do it. But yes. Everything's a little bit out of order. Anyway, yeah, taking a look at everything else, the doc type HTML tells it that it's HTML5 in this case. The HTML tags tell you when the HTML begins and ends. The head tag denotes information across the entire document, like title and style across the entire page. Easy if you want to make all the text red on your web page, but you know, I don't know who would want to do that. And then the body tag contains everything within the body of your web page. For this reason, there tends to be a lot of stuff in the body tag. So the head tag will denote stuff that goes on up here at the top and just sort of general information about what the rest of the web page is going to look like across the entire web page. The body tag, however, is going to contain all of the other information, like the actual words and pictures and links and things like that, and words. They fail me right now. And just sort of the general content of your web page. So a lot of times the body is going to contain most of the information of your document. A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times. So as mentioned before, anything contained within the head tags contains information that carries throughout the whole document. So again, this way you can do some preliminary formatting like font or background colors. You can add scripts to your web page that start when someone loads the page and a few other things. What we did though is we added the title tags, these things right here. And the title tags tell the browser what's going to appear in the title of the page, the tabs or the window bar along the top. So that's the kind of information, like how it says HTML in Google site fall 2016 and Young Engineers at Today over here. That kind of stuff is going to be contained within the title tags. We already did that though. So now here's the thing about paired tags. Paired tags can be nested, as we've seen already. So that is to say, or they need to be nested, otherwise they don't work. That is to say that the first tag opened is the last tag closed. So this is not the most visual example, but you can kind of see it if I cut that out for a moment. You've got the HTML tag is opened first. Then the head tag is opened. Then the title tag is opened. And then everything is closed in reversed order. The title tag is closed. Then the head tag is closed. Then the HTML tag is closed. So everything's sort of nested inside one another. The title area in its entirety is nested inside of the head area in its entirety, which is nested inside of the HTML area in its entirety. So that kind of stuff, again, things need to be nested. You need to close the inside stuff before you close the outside stuff. I got the little colors here to help denote that as well. Might also help to do this to make it easier to read. So as you can see, the title tags get closed before the head tags do. Anyway, let me go ahead and put that back to where it was. So the importance of the body tag, it's super important. Almost everything on your web page, if you're just creating like a straight up HTML web page, is going to be contained inside of that body tag. So like it said here, pretty much everything inside the orange rectangle. So this tag normally contains the most information in your document, certainly if you're going with pure HTML. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that's going to be going inside that body tag. One of the things we've got is the header tag, which is different from the head tag because we got to make things confusing. So we've got the head tag. We also have the header tag, which creates like titles and stuff like that in the actual web page. I know I said titles. Well, we've got titles here, but it's different from those titles. You start running out of words when you're programming and you're trying to create things. You start running out of words, and so you start creating distinctions in your head that make sense in your head. And sometimes when you do things like create a programming language, the advantage of you creating those distinctions and creating a programming language is that everybody else has to start abiding by those distinctions as well. So we've got the header tag, which allows you to make titles for the content in your web page, but it's different from the head tag and it's different from the title tag. It's weird, but you'll start to get a feel for it more. The header tag is super easy to create though. It's just the letter H followed by a number from 1 to 6. The bigger the number is, the smaller the text is. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example of that. So I'm going to slap it into my body tag. In fact, I'm going to turn this hi into a header tag. And I'm going to turn it into an H1 tag, which is header 1, which is the biggest one. So like I said here, header 1 is the largest, well, header 6 is the smallest. So if we wrap this hi in header 1 tags, we should see this hi turn super big once we save all this stuff. So I'll go ahead and save it, which updates the HTML file. And then if I reload this page, it will reread that HTML file. And we've updated it. So boom, now it's ginormous. It is in fact header 1 sized. There's some other stuff we can do. We've got the paragraph tag. The paragraph tag allows you to separate blocks of text into more easily readable stuff, because the browser will automatically separate two paragraph tags, a pair of paragraph tags. You should be able to just double click on it, Noah. Should be able to. There may have been. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Welcome, Mr. Skeletal. So anything between two paragraph tags is going to be separated from the rest of everything else. Basically, it's going to put a blank line and indent the first line of the new paragraph. So this is what you tend to use when you're writing with plain text, but this can even be formatted further. So as a note, as we've already seen, you do not need the paragraph tag for text to appear in your document, but it does create some automatic formatting, which makes things nice. So we've got the header tag here. Let's go ahead and create a paragraph, and that's just done with a couple of P's. The paragraph tag is a P. That's all it is. It's the P tag. So let's say this is a paragraph of text. I am filling out more of it to denote or to illustrate the fact that a paragraph tag will automatically or automagically indent the first line and not subsequent lines. This is important information to remember, I suppose. What operating system are you using? Let's see here. I'm trying to remember how to do it from a Macintosh operating system, but I haven't touched one in a few months. Let's see. Okay, so what you can try doing, and it's been a while since I've done this, is find the file like on your computer. Don't open it, just find it. So you've got like your index.html sitting on your desktop or something like that or whatever. Go ahead and find it and right click on it. And you should get a context menu. What you want to do is you want to go to, it might still be called Get Info, it might be called Properties, and it'll bring up a small window. in that window, there will be a few different options. One of them will be name and extension. Go ahead and expand that one. So right-click it and then select File Properties, or it might be Properties, it might be Get Info. All right, and then you get a small window that opens up, right, and says like index.html info. That's got a few different options. Yeah. All right, do you see one that says name and extension? All right, expand that. And what is in the text box? Does it test or index.html.txt, or is it just index.html? Untitled.txt. Okay, so just erase everything in there and replace it with index.html. Then go ahead and close the window, and it's going to pop up with something that's going to pop up with a dialog box, and it's going to ask you whether or not you want to keep the TXT or keep the HTML, and you want to keep the HTML. Excellent. That's a little bit clunkier of a way to do it, but that's the way I remember doing it off the top of my head. Oops. Here, I was typing out my super long and unnecessary paragraph, but I wanted to display the paragraph function. Paragraph function is something that isn't generally used as much anymore. No, that's not correct. The formatting functions are something that aren't used as much anymore in favor of CSS. However, these are still good to learn in. No, I did auto magically on purpose. Because it's magic. In order to gain a foundational understanding of HTML and web page building. Also, here's a second paragraph. So the reason why I typed all of this stuff, it used to do that. That might not be a thing that it does in HTML5 anymore. Let's see here. Oh, you're totally right. It doesn't indent it anymore. I probably want to give people the option to be able to indent it. I'm sure there's some sort of escape character to make things tabbed. Kind of wonder if it's this. Let's see. No, it just interprets that as nothing. Oh well. Yes, you are totally correct, though. It does not indent the first line of the paragraph anymore. Oh well. At least, as we can see here, I've got my two paragraphs right next to one another, but they're separated by the paragraph tags, and the browser automatically, I suppose, creates a blank line here to indent, or not, sorry, to separate them. At any rate, we'll get more into the formatting stuff on Monday. We've actually just about run out of time now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ask the poll questions, and then we will go ahead and break for the weekend, and we'll meet up again on Monday. So here we go. First poll question incoming.